Hello and welcome to It's a Boat Thing. Today we are in Cambridgeshire. We're at the Fish and Duck Marina and we're here to film on board Muddy Waters. It's a Dutch boat owned by Dave Simpson. Let's see what the boat is all about. Welcome back on board with Dave Simpson. Let's continue to explore his boat and find out more about Muddy Waters in this, the second part of It's a Boat Thing, Meet the Owner. Oh, you have a shed.
We have a workshop
Oh, a
and
workshop.
store, which is invaluable, basically.
What a marvellous area.
Well, I designed it as a recording studio. Then I found out I can do the same thing on a computer. So we just adjusted this and adapted it to hold all the stuff and junk we didn't need.
It's a good idea. I mean, most of us have a small hold or lockers and things to put the odd bits and pieces in, but to actually have a workshop on board.
Well, I've got a cruiser as well, and storage there had been scrabbling about in the engine room.
Yes, pretty much for most of us.
Okay, if you'd like to follow me. Back through the main saloon, or lounge I suppose you'd call it, and we now head to the main living quarters. Okay, one of the reasons I bought this boat is I think it's one of the very few in Britain which has access through a corridor to the back bedroom. Most Dutch barges, in fact nearly all Dutch barges you'll ever see, if there is a wheelhouse, there are stairs going down to the front, i.e. the kitchen and saloon,
Yeah.
and there's a back set of stairs going to the back rear cabin.
So you'd have to go up and over the wheelhouse
exactly.
every time that you go anywhere.
Which in the winter, I tend to block off the wheelhouse when it's really cold,
Yeah.
keep the downstairs cosy. So this represents a real plus in access. It also becomes my utility room, and there's a room off to the engine room as well.
I see. Right. Okay. Well, follow you through the doorway.
Okay. If we come through here, because of the gunnels on this boat, which are quite large, it means there's enough space to accommodate a drinks fridge, a freezer, and a dishwasher. So this becomes a utility room, and through here, it's the engine room.
I'll follow you in. Let's have a look in here. So quite a small engine room then. You can probably tell on the microphone the echo in there because it is enormous. I'm just trying to pan the camera around here just so you have an idea exactly what we are looking at.
We have a Perkins 135 horsepower engine. We have a Northern Lights 5 kV sealed in silent generator, and we have a large battery leisure bank which can keep the whole boat going for about 5 days, as well as 2 starter batteries and a Jenny battery.
I have to say that is probably the biggest bank of batteries I've ever seen in my life, other than on a commercial vessel. And I'm glad you explained what that was. I didn't have an idea what that was at all.
That makes the boat totally self-sufficient. So since it operates off the main diesel tank, I can probably run the boat aside from the engine for 8 months.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
5 kV Victron inverter, which monitors exactly what's going on and runs the shore power, the Jenny, all the connections. And to your left there is a Somi boiler which runs the central heating. The central heating is automated and runs via Wi-Fi, so I can adjust it to any temperature anywhere in the world to make sure that the boat is the correct temperature for me exiting, coming back.
Okay, so that's the engine room. So I'll follow you into the aft cabin.
Be my guest.
Now, watch as I tread through here because there are a couple of steps, and people that know me know I'm quite prone to tripping up stuff as I wander around in a boat.
I'll tell you about those in a while, but we designed where the steps went because, bear in mind, there was no floor, so we could choose the best places, and given the size and design of a Dutch barge, it's a big curve. There had to be some steps somewhere.
Of course, yes. I suppose the nature of the rear of the boat as it comes up to allow for the propeller, is it, that would
Correct.
go out the back?
Yeah. We wanted a full queen size bed. Underneath here is the water tank, so there's no storage. In the other bedroom there is storage underneath the bed. These units I had specially made, or I made specially to contain the bulkhead. So they're shaped to follow the curve of the boat. I wanted a dressing table with storage above, wardrobes, more storage, loads of storage.
Storage is always going to be a problem on board any boat. I think you've solved it on here.
Some of these cupboards, believe it or not, are empty because I don't actually have enough stuff to store.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good way to be. It's when you've got too much to store, not enough cupboards. That's the bad way around. So I can see, looking past your dressing table there, you have another bathroom. So this is the master bathroom, is it, for the main cabin?
Bathroom. We wanted a bath.
And it is actually a bathroom,
oh yeah,
isn't it?
bath.
Yeah, full-size bath.
Every single light on the boat is LED, so very low maintenance and very low power. We tried everything we could to save as much power as possible. So we've got storage, power, facilities, and backup upon backup, hence the huge generator and the huge tanks.
So you have redundant systems for everything that you use on board.
Pretty much. We've got shore power. When that goes, we've got the Jenny, but the battery banks will keep us going 5 days, even with all this equipment. Yeah. If you'd like to follow me up to the wheelhouse, we'll have a cup of coffee and I'll tell you some more about the boat.
That sounds a great idea. Again, I'll try not to fall down the stairs.
Well, you fall up.
Well, I do tend to wander around the boat and trip over most things because I'm looking at the camera rather than where I'm going. Okay, well, thanks for showing us around, Dave. Appreciate it. Really lovely boat. We find ourselves back in the wheelhouse now, and you was telling me when we was off camera a few stories about how you put this back together again. What's the story behind that?
Okay, well, nearly all Dutch barges have fold-down wheelhouses in order to get under the many bridges on the system.
Yeah.
And this was no different. When I bought it in Shepperton, I took it down the Thames, brought it round the North Sea and up past King's Lynn.
Yeah.
When we got to the first bridge in Ely, two things happened. It started raining. Myself and my wife then decided it was time, because we couldn't get under the bridge, to take the wheelhouse apart. It had 3 huge curved roof slabs on, each weighing about 200 weight. So we took those down in the rain, at which point every single window in the whole thing fell down and smashed.
Oh, okay. That's not a great situation to be in when you're on the hoof, so to speak.
It was appalling. In the long term, what I did was I rebuilt the whole wheelhouse with a fixed roof at a fixed height of 2 meters 7, so we could negotiate under most bridges on the system, and it's been perfect. Not only that, but all these wheelhouses that fold down leak like a sieve in between the gaps, and this one doesn't.
You've got a number of instruments. I'm just going to pan the camera around to the main helm. As you tell me about this, I'm just going to show everybody out the front of what your view is when you're helming such a large boat. So what have we got here that helps you?
Well, for those of you familiar with nautical equipment, you'll realise that most of the instrument panel came from a Ford Anglia from 1965. Not really, but a level of technology is pretty much the same. When you're in a cruiser, you want to go fast and nippy and agile. when you're in a Dutch barge, you want to go forward and backward and know how much is in the tanks, and that's pretty much what that lot does. When I bought the boat, it was called Scaramouche, which I didn't have a huge problem with until I brought it round across the North Sea, and then I found every time I contacted the Coast Guard, he would say, "What's the name of your boat?" And I would say, "Scaramouche, Scaramouche," and you could hear him going, "Do the fandango" in the background. At which point I thought I'd rename it.
That's not a bad idea, although I quite like the comedy aspect of that.
The wheelhouse was one of the main reasons I bought the boat, because of the amazing 360-degree view. In a house, you could never get a 360-degree view, and also because you can seat 6 in absolute comfort and 8 round the dinner table, so you've got a great dining space, and because it's got the corridor downstairs, there are no stairs at the back, so you can utilise all this rear space.
So this doesn't become a corridor for moving from one part of the boat to the other. It
No,
becomes a dedicated space for you to entertain your guests on board.
And we double glazed all the windows, and I designed all the opening windows so whichever way the wind is blowing, I can control the amount of breeze coming in. If it's too hot, we can cool it. If it's too cool, we can hot it. I think that's the wrong phrase, but we'll go with that.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you can maintain a sort of an efficient temperature setup in this, can't you?
The table, which I designed so you can actually access it easily, is also a double bed. This whole table lowers and forms a king-size double bed.
So that gives you effectively an extra cabin. And I don't know if you can see on camera, but there are Venetian blinds all the way around, so you can darken it down for anyone that's sleeping up on the top here.
And you can cut out the sun, which is the main thing. One of the problems with a wheelhouse like this is that when the sun shines, it can get really hot.
Yeah.
And fade material and just basically get in the way. All the blinds mean I can control totally the amount of light and dark at any time.
What I'm looking around at is a huge undertaking. It must have taken you ages to do this.
It took between 3 and 4 of us about a year to get right. But every single detail, every socket's in the right place, it's got USB points. Since I've had the boat, probably 10 years now, I don't think I found anything I would have done any different. So in that way, it's been quite a success.
Yeah, well, that is a success because we've all done stuff in our own houses, let alone on the boats. But you think, oh, I wish I hadn't put that there or put an extra one of those in. So if you're 10 years in and you're still happy with what you put in, I would say that is a success. Right. Have you thought of going further afield at all, other than Cambridge and obviously down the lower reaches of this particular part of the River Great Ouse? Have you thought of going further afield?
Well, it was designed to do the French canals, and I think about that all the time, and then reason takes over, and I think, well, maybe next year.
Maybe next year. The tank sizes that you have on here, you were telling me about earlier, with your water tank, your fuel tank, what sort of range would that give you if you did decide to go on the continent and cruise the French canals?
Theoretically, with a calm channel, which you rarely get, and no locks in France, the tank range would get me to Carcassonne and back in one hit,
Yeah.
as would the Jenny and water. So theoretically, if I have enough provisions, I could get from here to the south of France quite easily without stopping. Of course,
that depends on the French canals, of course, but
which shut 6 months every year.
Yeah, so there's a number of inbuilt problems in that, but that is a heck of a range to get to effectively the Mediterranean and all the way back again.
It's a big range
on one boat's worth of fuel, potentially the water tank and the provisions that you could carry on board.
Well, the black water tank is 2 tons, water's 2 tons, and diesel's 2 tons. So the tanks are one of the largest I've come across on any Dutch barge other than the really large ones. With the Jenny and the batteries, we're pretty much self-contained and can do quite long voyages all in one hit.
What's your average cruising speed on this? Because it is a beast.
Assuming no tides, 8 knots.
Okay, that's pretty reasonable. That gets you from here to wherever at a reasonable rate.
Well, it's also quite good because things tend to get out of my way when I go into 8 knots because they'll come off worse in
Certainly,
confrontation.
I can't even think about you heading towards us when we're in front of you. Certainly, Enterprise would get out of your way. That is for certain.
By the way, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but many narrowboats and Dutch barges seem to have these odd-shaped windows with a curved top and a bar across the middle.
I did notice that when I was outside earlier, that you've got portholes almost along the entire length, both sides, but then that weird shaped window.
I was told some time ago that all this came about, like so many odd things, in the 1930s when London Transport was selling off loads of double-decker buses, and they all had these windows in, and people bought them and put them in narrowboats, and it sort of took off.
So it's been a tradition, or became a tradition from that point. So again, thank you, Dave, for showing us around your spectacular, in every sense of the word, boat, between its size, its carrying capacity and what you could do with it. Very much appreciate you letting It's a Boat thing, giving your time around this. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And although I said I had no nautical heritage, my grandfather played violin on the Titanic.
Just the once?
He went down well.
Thanks very much, Dave, and happy cruising.
Goodbye.
So I'm sure you'll agree what a privilege it is to look around such an interesting boat, and thank you very much for Dave for giving us the time. Anyway, as always, if you like what you see, please comment below. Subscribe button is over here in the corner. See you guys next time.